So, we've got two packages here. This first one isn't actually anime, but it should still be interesting to show nonetheless. I'm just going to loosen up the tape a bit, like so. Wish I had put the scissors down. This I can't help but feel I should have maybe waited a little bit longer to order, but nevertheless, the package it's here now. This is thank you for your order. This is the first time I've intentionally ordered something from the collectible option under Amazon, and I think I finally understand why that's there. And it's basically about obtaining something that is either used or new, but it's in a condition that would be called, that would be considered appropriate for collectors. And this game, for some reason currently unknown to myself, is expensive like that. And if only I could get all this stuff off, then I could get the game out and finally show y'all and stop talking about it without mentioning it by name. The Misadventures of Tron, Bonne, which should complete all my Mega Man Legends stuff. Oh wow. It's got a Mega Man Legends 2 demo CD, the original stuff, including the original. The condition of this is definitely very spectacular, which I was kind of trying to do since it was listed in the collectible, and I noticed that a lot of the used stuff had bits and pieces missing, and I kind of wanted a complete deal, so I ended up paying a lot of money to make sure I got a good version of that, and so I have a good version, and so everything's happy. But now we can go for the main course. I mean, okay, that stuff was important, and as expensive as that was, the truth of the matter is these were slightly more. There we go. All 5 of them as expected. Believe it or not, these actually cost a lot. First of all, the 12th Naruto Shippuden. I don't even know. I guess that's an advertisement. If I remember right, the insides of these aren't too noteworthy, but I'll take a peek anyways. I don't know what Neon Alley is, but I guess it's a new streaming service for anime. I think that's good. I certainly appreciate it. Next up, we've got the Blu-ray and DVD versions of Heaven's Memo Pad. Something which I kind of thought was an OVA based on the way it looked at the beginning, and that I had not heard the name before, which Sentai tends to release on this, but no, given the price and looking it up, they are actually series, and there's an English dub, which actually has me a bit more curious, because normally Sentai doesn't spend as much time dubbing unless they think an anime is worth it. I guess in light of, yeah, this one only has 2 discs, so only those pictured. That's not too bad. We'll do Deadman Wonderland next. A very curious one. I've been intrigued by, warning, uncut, uncensored, and unbelievably awesome, featuring a bonus episode. So probably an OVA that got released on Blu-ray, DVD, Anyways, and y'all probably already saw. Don't even know what to make about all this. My guess, though, is that this is like a panty and stocking with garter belt, where we see a setup here that's obviously ideal for a DVD Blu-ray combo, but it's only got 3 DVD discs, which isn't too bad. Oh geez, that's creepy. But yeah, I think I've talked about this before, how I believe some stuff Funimation was planning to release DVD Blu-ray, but because people in Japan have started reverse importing Blu-rays, a lot of deals have become shaky. I guess like Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt looked like that. Heaven's Lost Property Forte, and I believe there's a listing for Heaven's Lost Property Forte on Blu-ray finally up on Amazon, I think. I recall seeing something that I know was DVD only before. Anyways, all of that is putting aside the thing that probably had maybe a wider variety of audience interested, and that would be finally going back to official release of Digimon, the first season. I'm trying to see. It says approximately 19 hours. Okay, so it's definitely more than that 13 episode thing that Fox released. Oh, I guess that would be worthwhile to look at too. But I'm going to take a peek at this because I want to look on the inside, and I'm pretty sure y'all are curious about it too. I know I'm not the first video, since obviously one of my subscribers has gone on here first. But we got a bunch of characters. Now, I've never watched Digimon myself. It's one of those things where if you only had limited TV time, you only picked up certain key things. And Pokemon ended up being one of those things that I saw a bit of. So what I'm going to do, see, this ends the anime DVD collection update, but I'm going to check real fast because I heard that there could be something wrong with episode 7 of this Digimon set, and I'm going to take a peek at that and compare it to the bootleg and the official previous release. Alright, before I talk about what I've watched, let's talk a bit about this Digimon DVD. I took a peek, and I can kind of see why episode 7 does feel a bit off. It almost actually felt very comparable to this older release, which is a single disc with 13 episodes on it, and I think it might have even been single layered. So the quality on this is obviously not too spectacular. It's actually fairly comparable to VHS, maybe. And I think that was kind of the idea, is they probably had 3 or 4 VHS volumes, and they put all the contents on here in a kind of strangely selectable format. But, you know, this one they're trying to go for an official release, and I took a peek at episode 6, and the animation looked about what I would expect. You know, I just took a look at one scene. But I looked at the beginning of episode 7, especially this one scene where it kind of pans across the hot springs that they're running to, and it shows the kids running. And you can kind of tell that something feels a bit off about it, which is quite unfortunate, because I did fire up the bootlegs that have been really well known and linked about that looked like pretty decent quality. And while they don't have the same intro-outro sort of setup as these do, I think they just... I'm trying to remember if it actually showed the opening or if it started at the episode title card. But I could tell that the animation on that part in the bootleg version was just fine, whereas in these two versions it was more questionable. Whereas episode 6 looked fine. And I only checked this out because I got a heads up from one of my subscribers who did the unboxing way before me, and he's been watching some of it. I can't blame him. I would probably be watching some of it too if I wasn't busy. And so along the notes of busy, yeah. So my brother was over again today, and we finished the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya and the Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. So we're, for all intents and purposes, caught up, other than the little shorts, Haruhi-chan and whatever the other one is called, and I can't remember. And I might give him copies of those to view at his own leisure, or maybe if we have off time on a day where he comes over to watch a movie, you know, it makes sense to do that. Which won't be next week. So, once again, you know, Disappearance is actually very spectacular. I can't help but feel like it made the universe of Haruhi feel so alive still. Like there was still new grounds to tread. And at the same time, I kind of realized it does bring the series to a kind of appropriate close in a way. Obviously, I can't talk about this stuff without spoiling all this stuff. But yeah, and it's very interesting because it does this despite starting off as a kind of uncomfortable sort of film. And I think it would be obvious why, and you've seen situations like this, and when you watch Disappearance, you'll kind of understand why it feels uncomfortable. You know it would, and if you ever do watch it and you haven't seen it before and you're just listening to me, this is the thing to say. Push past that. Because, I mean, it's not hard to push past. You're curious anyways. But listen to that curiosity, because it really does pay off as a very interesting and fulfilling movie to watch. And that's, I think, part of the reason why overall it rates so high. Is because it does a really good thing with its source material. Now, I'm not talking about the source material of the original Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. I'm assuming it's a good adaptation of that. But I mean, like, the Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya was just a really good way, a really good approach to the source material, which just finds ways to keep you interested. I mean, how many series kind of have this problem where they have that problem? I know, like, Ramen Fighter Miki, I thought was absolutely hilarious for, like, the first third of it, but then it started feeling like it was falling into a lull and reusing its own jokes again, or something like that. It didn't feel like it was as fresh after that. And I experienced that with other series. I think Club the Death Angel kind of felt similar, and Magical Witch Punie-chan, you know. And those are comedy examples, whereas this would be just kind of content in general example. The kind of thing that would get you interested in watching a series like The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. And what might keep you coming back. The second season obviously doesn't do that, because there's aspects of that where I couldn't blame somebody for being pissed off about it. But I take precautions to make sure anybody I show it to know what they're getting themselves into, without trying to spoil it outright. So there's certain timings in which I do things, explain things, and give options, whatever. So, all that aside, you know, it was fun rewatching The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and Disappearance pushed the series as a whole onto my top favorite lists, because the series itself was fun, and Disappearance made it feel like it always kept fun, and I highly... It's kind of hard to explain exactly why I felt that. I'm not sure if I 100% feel that now, but I think it still applies. But let's set that aside. I did watch some more of High School of the Dead, and I really do appreciate it. I mean, there's definitely this over-the-topness with its fan service-ishness, but I think I've mentioned this before when I've talked about High School of the Dead, and that's I think it's actually rather appropriate, especially if you're having an anime adaptation of it, because when you get down to it, I really do appreciate how much the series still treats the concept of the zombie apocalypse as with respect, but at the same time is doing its own anime thing where, okay, you expect action to sometimes be over the top in certain zombie things. You know, some other zombie flicks you would expect gore to be over the top. I guess actually technically it's trying to be over the top in High School of the Dead, but for whatever reason, the animated violence never kind of clicks in my mind that way. Probably because being animated, it is nowhere near the Uncanny Valley or something like that. But, you know, since there are definitely a lot of anime out there that do explore this really fan servicey thing, the fact that there's a zombie apocalypse anime that also goes over the top with fan service is actually not entirely inappropriate for anime introducing a thing. And at the same time, there's some of it where I feel like High School of the Dead is almost bringing up a good point where people kind of ignore these obvious realities of that kind of situation. And it's really hard to explain that, especially since one or two of the people I'm watching it here, well, one of them's obviously seen it before. The other one is seeing it for the first time, and this would actually be a spoiler for the next episode we see, so I guess I can't really talk about that, even if I thought it might be appropriate to talk about it on YouTube, since it's on the edge of his mind. So, we'll put that aside. And I saw Resident Evil Damnation again, and I still enjoyed it. I really need to show it to my brothers, because I think they're probably going to be at the same place in terms of how they feel about the Resident Evil series, if they don't like it more than me. And if anything, that might make them appreciate this better. Because, right, I think I mentioned that I played Silent Hill and not Resident Evil. Instead, I just watched other people play Resident Evil. Those other people would, of course, have been my brothers. And so my brothers have actually played them. And I think they may actually appreciate what Resident Evil is like more than me, and because of that, they might enjoy these movies more than me. Hard to say. And I do believe the person I watched it with also just kind of felt it, how enjoyable it was. It just kind of kept appropriately escalating. And characters that are stereotypically ones that I normally wouldn't care about, it sort of did a really good job of, you know, turning that around and taking these initial stereotypes and making me kind of care about them. I don't want to talk about that too much because I might accidentally spoil something there. Instead, let's talk about Strike Witches 2, which it's a little unfortunate the way it begins. Interesting, but it also, the first season of Strike Witches ended in a way where you kind of were actually curious about the going on of things. Strike Witches 2 didn't really answer that. Instead, kind of put a reset on it so that it could sort of be telling the same story, sort of. There's some parts in there that kind of reminded me of just the Evangelion-esque sorts of things. They're very interesting ideas for enemies that showed up a couple places. And if there's any criticism of this, it's that I'm not sure if they ever did what Evangelion did, and that's properly keep you off your feet in terms of feeling like the characters will definitely make it through. I mean, to a certain degree, you know they will, right? You maybe don't know if somebody's going to get lost along the way, or if twists will happen and the goals change, but you somehow, you know, you're watching something and you know the main character is going to be there at the end. And you know that in a humans versus monsters sort of thing, you know that's going to go in a direction where either the war's still going on and humans aren't definitively losing, or the main character's there at the very end, or something like that. You know, storytelling-wise, that's going to happen. And so there's this real trick that a lot of stories have to do where they have to kind of make you still feel like the characters maybe couldn't make it to the end. And there's an element of suspension of disbelief there where if you can completely suspend it, then you're probably golden. But at the same time, if you want to reach a wider audience, you probably have to appeal to their ability to suspend disbelief or to be in the situation that the characters are in. And I'm wondering if Strike Witches isn't necessarily too good at that. And I don't think that's a surprise given the caliber of material you expect. You kind of expect something maybe K-on-ish with a bit more action, and I think that's about right. It does take a very interesting turn towards the end, and I don't think it executed the ending in the perfect way I thought they were maybe aiming for. I thought it was okay. It certainly leaves me very interested in the Strike Witches movie, which I believe comes out on Blu-ray in Japan this month. But it didn't look like it has English subtitles, so I'm not going to import it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, because it looks like there's a nice limited edition version as well. Oh well. So, overall, I wouldn't say it was a bad watch. It was more Strike Witches, and I think unlike my complaint of K-On! Season 2 feeling somehow off and different from K-On! Season 1, Strike Witches Season 2 felt like it was not exactly more of the same, but more Strike Witches, if you understand the distinction I'm trying to make. Hard to say. Other than that, I guess I've just been playing games. I mean, I did pick up... Oh, I don't have them anywhere. I did pick up Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 and strategy guides, and I've got White 2 in my 3DS over here. I have been making progress in Mega Man Legends 2, so the fact that the Misadventures of Tron Bonne showed up today isn't too bad. There's a possibility I could have Legends finished by the end of the weekend, and then I'd be firing this up. But, I've got so much anime to watch. I've got so much. Huh. Well, I guess there we go. That's the update for everything, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with not buying old anime DVDs until probably next year. Because if I put it off a couple more months, then I build up a nice additional buffer in my bank account in case something happens. I'm not good about doing that. If y'all have asked how I am able to afford all this stuff, part of the answer is I don't really have a concept of saving like I'm going to need to pay $100,000 tomorrow for cancer surgery or something like that. So that's one aspect of it. You know, I try to have a buffer in there, but I also don't worry or care about it too much. And that is not actually a positive thing. The other reasons are positive things. Well, okay, I guess no significant other isn't, but no college debts, paid off car, no mortgages. You know, things like that help a lot, especially if you have a really decently paying job, and I have to admit, I have a really decently well-paying job. I guess I went on a bit of a sidetrack there, so I'll go ahead and leave it at that. My shout out to the people that are still around, that would be Charles, JFS, and the Fat Kid for Life. Yo. And y'all have a nice week.